Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker University podcast series. Today's topic is 90 Days to Catapult Your Speaking Business. I'm Jane Atkinson, your host and the author of the Wealthy Speaker 2.0, and I'm joined by Wealthy U graduate Jen McDonough, who is the author of Living Beyond Rich and the host of the Iron Jen radio show. Welcome, Jen.
Oh, thanks, Jane. It's great to be here.
Well, we're following the 10 modules that someone would find in our 90-day Catapult program, which is really a fabulous online course. Now, we're not going to be doing a big pitch on this, but if anybody's interested in it, they can go to wealthyspeakeru.com for more information, and we'll talk about it a bit more at the end. Now, Jen, you've been through all of these modules in the Wealthy Speaker University. How helpful would you say they've been in launching your speaking career?
Honestly, Jane, there were parts that made so much sense and they were easy to cruise through, and there were other parts that were honestly pretty frustrating. But having gone through the process, these modules kind of make you address the problems that you're struggling with. And boy, to have that time to set aside to say, hey, I'm going to learn this, I'm going to do this, was absolutely one of the most clarifying processes to go through in driving my business forward. So it really brought a lot of clarity and focus to areas that I was struggling with, and shed a lot of light on areas that I didn't know I needed to know. And so it was a great process to go through, and really was a key in driving forward my journey a lot faster.
Well, I'm sorry about the frustration, but I guess it was necessary. And here we are. Now, I've asked you to circle back through all of them using the eyes of a brand new speaker and kind of pull out what you think the questions will be that will be most helpful. So let's just go ahead and we'll dive right in.
Awesome. And Jane, just as a side note, the frustration was good, because I think we all get a little frustrated when we are struggling with something. So just as a point of thing.
I'm pretty sure our listeners can identify with that.
Well, Jane, in Module 1, you talk about picking a lane. What is a lane, and why is it so important to pick?
Well, the pick a lane idea actually was generated by a friend of mine, Joe Calloway, who we'll talk about a little bit later. And what we really mean when we say pick a lane, it is pick a topic lane. So the joke in the industry is if your topic list is as long as your client list, then you're in big trouble. And I do find that. I mean, I just had someone come to me yesterday for a Focus 40 session who had a really long list of topics. And I think that is not doing them any service. The question to ask yourself around this is, what do I want to be known for 5 years from now? And the goal is that you kind of start to narrow your lane and become an expert in one area so that you can truly be called the expert. If I look at your website and I see that you speak on communication and technology and presentation skills, I think to myself, whether it be consciously or subconsciously, this person isn't really an expert in anything. So the idea behind picking a lane is really that you become known for one thing 5 years from now, and that you really get into that thing and create excellent content around that.
Where do you see some of the areas that either we struggle with, or what are some top mistakes that most speakers make in this area?
Well, I think that they just continue to be kind of too broad, and what I think that can maybe a trap that you might fall into, I would call the trainer/commodity trap. So let's say company A calls you and they want something on communication. That's one day. And then company B calls you the next day and they want team building, and then company C calls you the next day and they want leadership. I think you have to kind of decide, well, which part of that do you want to be at the core of everything? So if you're going to be a communications expert, you put the communication spin on every piece of work that you do, whether it be leadership or team building, whatever. So your topic is leadership, or it's really communication and how that results in effective leadership. And I'm not giving you titles that you would use, of course, in your promotions, but the idea is that you're really becoming known for one thing. Oh, that's the communications expert, and we can apply that to a lot of different things. When you get stuck in the trainer/commodity trap, I think you will find that you're hitting your head on the ceiling of where your fees can go, because you're competing with other trainer commodities rather than kind of rising above them all, being the expert, the only choice.
You know, as you talk about this, it's kind of funny. When you're beginning, you're so afraid to say no to something because you think,
right.
I missed that opportunity. So it's nice to have that permission.
Well, you know what, Jen, we should really say that if you need to generate revenue, there might be times when you take an engagement that isn't completely in your wheelhouse in order to pay the bills, in order to pay the mortgage, but just be knowing as you take it that that's not really going to serve your empire long term. We call our umbrella, our business model, the empire. That's at the beginning of the Wealthy Speaker 2.0. It's just not going to serve you. I would say if you need to take it, but just be aware of the fact that it's not really serving you.
I love that you made this module, the first module, as everything you do really stems from it. Is that fair to say, Jane?
Absolutely. Without picking a lane, I think it's very difficult to continue on from there, to build marketing language, to build a website. All of that becomes so much more difficult.
Jean, it moves us on to module number 2. You talk about a promise statement. What is a promise statement, and why is it important?
Well, a promise statement is a marketing kind of tagline. A lot of people might call it a tagline. I first heard the term promise from a copywriting expert named Bob Bly. And he was really talking about at the top of, one of those long sales pages that you might see in internet marketing, what's your big promise, that goes right at the top. So I really kind of massaged that, and what I'm thinking about is that it's a tagline that I see when I come to your website that really spells out the outcomes of your work. And without it, I can spend maybe quite a bit of time kind of looking around your website and not really understanding what it is that you do. And just to be clear, it should be on every single page of your website, so that no matter how someone finds you, they might come in through the back door of your website, they will be able to see your promise very clearly.
Is there an optimal length? Should they be a paragraph long? Should it be like our mission statement?
We're going to show, yeah, that's a great, I do see some that are really more like mission statements. We're going to show some examples here, but I'm going to say it's like a 5 to 7 word maximum line that really succinctly, it might even say what you do and who you do it for. Let's say you work in the dental industry and your idea is to help the dental practice retain their clients. So helping dental practices improve client retention might be your promise statement. And so we really want to look at every word of our promise statement, and we want to see now, the one that I just gave you, it's pretty bland, it's pretty boring, we could certainly do better than that. You would go in and you would examine every word and say, now, is there something we can use that might be a better word? Swapping out maybe a nickel word for a 50-cent word to make it a little bit more interesting. So I use the term catapulting in my own speaking business, catapult your speaking business, because catapult, I could just say grow your speaking business, and that might be kind of dull. So just as an example.
I never thought of that way, Jane, when you say, oh, yeah, it does make a big difference. You've just done such a great job on teaching that we just all assume that, who went through that, but hearing those examples help. Jane, we hear a lot about brand. How does our promise statement relate to our brand?
Well, there are going to be some situations where you have both a brand and a promise. And I don't know if this is an exact science, but I like to think of it like a book title and a subtitle. The subtitle would be the promise statement that we were just talking about, and the title would be kind of the hook, the catchy thing that may draw you in. Some people will only have a promise statement on their website, and that's perfectly fine. But some people will have both. And when we move into the website, I'll show you some examples of people that have both of those. But if you go to, let me just go into, I'll show you something on the screen here. So hang on, I'm just brand new with my handy dandy, let me get the highlighter here. So accelerated learning, oh, hang on, am I working here? I don't know if this is working. Accelerated learning to catapult your speaking business. That's one of the pieces out here on my own kind of Wealthy Speaker University site. And the goal is the Wealthy Speaker University would be the brand, and accelerated learning to catapult your speaking business would be the promise. So just so you can see kind of the two pieces used there, and we'll kind of roll into websites here, and I'll show you a few more examples.
Jane, when it comes to when we roll into Module 3, which is around our website, what are some key elements that we should have on our websites?
Okay, so let me just show you that what we were just talking about. This is SusanMillerSpeaks.com, and I really want to highlight the very top pieces. Let me see if I can get my highlighter working here. This is literally my first day with my new toys. Actually, you know what I want is, so everybody will have to bear with me. I'm going to use the arrow if it'll work here. Oh, you know what? It's not working. It may be that I have two different screens on the go here. Anyhow, working in the positive zone is the brand, and I'm really only showing you what I'd like to highlight for you is really down to the green line on this website, okay? So what's below the line, we'll just ignore that, and we'll just look at this banner, because that's the most important piece. Working in the positive zone is really Susan's brand, and she's claimed it by saying with Susan Miller. And what's underneath that, creating high energy, low stress workplaces, that is her promise. That's the outcome of her work. And I use this banner a lot because it's just so simple. Now, again, down below, she's kind of managing this website herself, so I'm not going to say that everything is recommended what's going on below, but I really think it's a great example from the green line on up of a promise and a brand together. So that's really one of the key elements that we want to see on a website. Let me just move you into, this is actually someone that you know very, very well, Kent Julian.
Oh,
and what's that?
I said that is a true face I recognize.
And isn't this really just a lovely website? I love everything about it, really. He's got his promise here, empowering teams to show up and shine. And then he's got shine down below. There are two basic choices in life, check out and whine or show up and shine. And he's quoting himself. So that's something that I typically will recommend. Kent has gone through the university as well. And that's something that I typically recommend to people, is that they quote themselves rather than other people. And of course, on your website, you might have a sprinkling of testimonials from clients, or you may have a clients and testimonials page. Those are certainly things that are some of the key elements. So the other thing that I want you to think about is when you are positioning, I want to be able to come onto your website and really see kind of what the outcomes are. So let's skip forward to Lisa Ford. Now hers is going to have a rotating carousel here, and so you're going to see a few things as we're walking through Lisa's website. But one of the cool things is that she's got a really clear piece at the very top that says it's all about how to give exceptional customer service. And then on this piece it says helping companies build customer-focused culture, build a customer-focused culture. And then she's talking about the mediocrity that's in customer service today. So it's kind of about them, and it's really clear to me that Lisa is all about customer service. So she's got a really kind of them-focused website rather than hire me, I'm a speaker. So I really want people to be thinking about how they can be more them focused than kind of me focused, and I think that will be another good component. The other thing to think about, let me just move on to this next website. This is a website of a client of mine, Helene Segura, HeleneSegura.com. Okay, and so Helene's brand is Kick Chaos to the Curb, bringing organizing and productivity to your workplace. So she's got some of the key elements here. And then she kind of shows me exactly how she's going to do that with these links: training and keynote, consulting services, books, event planners, and then book Helene. So I'm on her event planner page because I thought she organized this beautifully, and of course that's her business. So there are several pieces right here on this page that I think are really important. So I went to HeleneSegura.com and then I clicked on event planners, and that's how I got here. So underneath here, here's the info you're going to need in order to book Helene: videos, one sheet, bios, testimonials, blah, blah, blah. And then here's the information that you're going to need after you have booked Helene: photos, introduction, books. We want to really promote the idea of them taking a book for every person in the audience. I think that's something that we all want to have happen. Custom content, AV requirements, travel, etc. So she's giving everything that they need in order to be super, super easy to work with her. And that is the goal, that you are like really, really easy to work with and that people can get what they need from you very, very quickly. Now, over here on the right-hand side, you're going to see Get Your Free Productivity Kickstarter Kit. And she's saying, here's what's going to be in the kit. If you'll give us your name and your email address, you can get your Productivity Kickstarter kit now. That is what we would call it at Infusionsoft, which is the new platform that I'm working with right now. That's called a magnet. How are you drawing people into your fan base? Because my theory is, and I hope I'm not going on and on too long on this, Jen. My theory is that you want to draw people into your fan base and keep them there until they buy from you. That's the whole goal of having a website, is to pull in your prospects and keep them there and keep feeding them great content, great information until they buy from you. Let me hit the pause button. See, Jen, how do you think that's sitting? Do you think that makes sense?
Oh, Jean, this is genius. I've not seen Helene's website before, and honestly, this is just wonderful. It's to actually see these different examples of how people go about it.
Yeah, well, I think she's doing a really good job, and as a productivity and kind of organization expert, I haven't seen anybody organize it quite as beautifully as she has. So I think that that's one that you'll want to kind of refer back to when you're getting ready to do your own meeting planner page. So let's go back. I want to just reiterate the links. A lot of people will put links that identify what they're selling, so their link might say services, which really isn't enough for me. If I come onto your website and I see your brand, Kick Chaos to the Curb, and I see your promise, bringing organization and productivity to your workplace, and then I see services, I have to click again to see how you are going to deliver on that promise. And what we really want is for people to get it, boom, within 15 seconds when they come to your website, they've got it. There's no question about, you know, what it is and how you're going to deliver on this promise. Oh, okay, I see. She does training, keynotes, and consulting, and she has some books. Very, very clear.
Some things that we shouldn't have on here? When we're looking at this, what are some big key ones that just are like nails on a chalkboard for you?
Well, I'll tell you what nails on a chalkboard are for me, and I'm just going to go over to Helene's contact. Actually, she might have, yeah, this is probably her contact page as well. For me, a really, really long request form on a contact us page and no contact information, that's nails on a chalkboard for me. If I can't find out how to get in touch with you, oh, I think, what are you even bothering to have a website for? That drives me crazy. The other thing that I want you to keep in mind, you're missing a marketing opportunity. Her email address, and she doesn't put it on there fully live because of spam, and I do understand that. It's office@HeleneSegura.com. I think that a lot of people would do Helene@gmail.com instead of their branded website address with their email. So I would say that's another mistake that I see very, very frequently. And oh boy, if I see an AOL email address, I think, whoa, let's step into 2014, can we please? So I want to see your phone number, and I want to see your email address right at the top of the Contact Us page, and then you can ask your questions. And you really don't have to ask too many kind of firm questions, you know, saying that this is absolutely essential that we have this information. Just ask for name, email address, and what do you want kind of thing, and that will be enough to get your form filled out. Make it easy for people to work with you.
Jamie, I noticed on her other page she didn't have her speaking fees listed on there. Should we have it?
No. No, I don't think that, and we'll talk about fees when we get to that module, but no, I don't think that fees should be listed on your website. What you want to do is you want to talk to your clients and get them whooped up about working with you first, and then you can talk to them about fees. So if somebody emails you and says, Jen, I'd like to book you for such and such a date, what are your fees? You might say, I'm happy to quote you my fees. Can we have a quick chat? I just have a few questions to be able to know which one to quote you. And then you will be able to ask them a little bit about their conference and hopefully get them whooped up. That's a Bob Scheinfeld phrase, get them whooped up about working with you before you actually quote fees.
You know, and looking at Helene's website, it kind of moves us into module number 4 where you talk about keynotes. What's the difference between a keynote and a workshop or training shop?
Well, a keynote is going to be kind of high-level ideas in a shorter frame of time. Okay, so you're going to want to, and let me just go over here to, if anybody wants a kind of an example of kind of a top-level out there keynote speaking all over the place at very, very high fees, they'll want to check out the demo video of Ryan Estes, RyanEstis.com. Just watch that video that comes up right here on his home page. Keynotes can be anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes, and I think with TED Talks being introduced that they're going to continue to shrink down in size. They're going to get shorter and shorter, and I think kind of 45 minutes is about a maximum for my attention span anyway. Again, they're kind of high-level ideas. You're not giving them lists of 10 of this and 10 of that. What you are is spurring thought. And so we have what I would call old school epic, because I just wrote a book called The Epic Keynote. Old school epic would have been tons and tons of stories, but not a lot of kind of takeaway and meat. Whereas new school epic, and I would put Ryan almost into this new school epic, but he's really become a blended, which I'll tell you about in a second. New school epic is tons and tons of takeaway, but not a lot of story. And where Ryan's come is just back kind of into the middle, which I think is the ideal situation where you're doing lots of teaching and take home, but you're also pairing that with a lot of really great stories. And I think when he first started speaking, say 3-4 years ago, he was doing a lot more teaching than storytelling. I'd say the balance for me is probably around 60%, 40%. 60% being the meat and 40% being the sizzle, the kind of the stories, the drama, the things that get your emotional component going.
Jean, in a nutshell, what would you say makes a epic keynote?
An epic keynote is one that is memorable, and one of the examples that I use in the book is um, Gerald Coffey, Captain Gerald Coffey. I saw him at my very first National Speakers Association conference 20 years ago in Washington, D.C., and he came in and spoke about being a 7-year prisoner of war in Vietnam. And they're in these tiny little cells, like 4 by 6, and they're all side by side, and how they used to tap out Morse code to each other in between the cells in order to communicate without anybody hearing them. And I can still hear the sound of his tapping on the lectern where he was standing, or I think actually he might have been right beside a piano, because there was a piano on stage that day, and he rapped on the piano with his knuckle, and I can still remember his voice and how that sounded, Jen, 20 years later. There was not a dry eye in the audience, and I just thought that that was the most epic thing I've ever seen. Now, would I say the same thing if I saw it today with my 20 years of jadedness behind me? I don't know. But it impacted me so, in such a way. I cried through that whole convention. I felt like, oh, I found my people. And it was really an amazing experience, and I remember it to this day. So I would say memorable is probably one of the keys to making something epic.
What are some disasters or mistakes some speakers make in trying to do an epic keynote?
Well, I think that they forget about the audience, or they don't take the audience into account enough when preparing. I think an epic keynote nowadays is a speaker who really understands you and your business and what the needs of the audience are. Joe Calloway, who I mentioned before, would go out and, you know, if he was speaking to, let's say, a UPS conference, he might go and hop on a UPS truck and go and see what they do for the day. Or, you know, he'll really go above and beyond to customize his presentations, and really so that the people think, wow, does this guy work for us? I mean, that's really the goal. And the highest compliment is, wow, I thought you worked for us. So you'll want to deliver something that really means something to them, and rather than what you think you want to say. So just be aware of how you are creating your content and how you can make it as much about them as possible. Sometimes you even make them, you know, the people in the audience, the heroes of your stories. You know, the odd time you might be the hero of your own story. But I think the most endearing speakers, it's not all about them. It's really about the audience.
Thank you, Jane. Hey, when we talked a little bit about fees before as we move on to module number 5, but how do we decide how to charge for our events or keynotes or workshops?
Well, I'm going to put up a fee schedule for you here. Can you see that on your screen, Jen?
Yes.
Okay. Actually, I can't figure out how to make it bigger. Oh, there we go. Oh, now my little arrow's working. Look at that. I think I was just in the wrong mode or something. Let me just draw your attention over here to the keynote fee. So I think that this isn't my fee schedule, by the way. This is just a sample fee schedule for, let me get out of this mode so that I can actually manipulate this document. Oh, I'm having technical issues. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Hang on a second. One of the things I think that we need to remember is that we have to start somewhere with our fees. So I talk to people about, you know, $1,500 is kind of the baseline about fees, and that's kind of when you are, in my mind, a professional speaker. So if I go to hire you and you say, well, my keynote fee is $300, then I might have, if I've hired a lot of speakers before, I might think, well, oh, they can't be that good if they're only charging $300. So I want you to just be thinking about that and thinking about how you need to set your fees. And here's the thing, when you're first going out to the marketplace, it's depending on where you've come from is what you're going to set your fee at. A CEO of a company might step right into a $10,000 fee. We have a client in our Masters Platinum group who has his own TV show. He's going to step right out into the market at a $12,500 fee. So I think there's all kinds of different things to take into consideration. Remember that they're not paying for the 1 hour of time that they might be booking you for. They're paying you for the 20 years of experience that went into that hour. So if you are a student who's fresh out of college, then maybe you charge $1,500 out of the chute and you start to work your way up. I also have a client who used to be in the NFL, and as an NFL football player, that has some cachet. So we have him sitting at about $7,500 right now. He's not a celebrity. Everybody doesn't know his name, but he does have that celebrity element of the NFL. So you're kind of going to have to set your fee based on where you've come from. And if you're just starting from scratch, you think you're just starting out, then I would say, you know, if you have to charge $500 and then $1,000 and then $1,500, but I'd like to see you at $1,500 in order to really qualify you, I guess, as a professional speaker. So I'm giving you this quick little fee schedule on the page here, so you can kind of see how the fees grow. Keynote will be your lowest fee, half day, or some people will combine that half day and full day. It's either a keynote up to 3 hours or it's a full day. That keeps it certainly simple if you only have 2 fees. But I've given you the example of $5,000 keynote. Half day would be $6,500, full day might be $7,500. Those are kind of logical price breaks. And then if you're speaking internationally, you definitely want to be charging more because it's going to take you a lot of time to get overseas and back again, and you want to make sure it's worth your while. So we would go to way up to like $15,000 for that. So I was really basing that on a $6,500 out-of-state fee and then kind of adding on from there. So we really want to, now this is a fee schedule that may go out to an individual client. We're not going to post it on our website, but we are going to post it on our bulletin board in our office, so that this is the most important piece about fees, Jen. You should be quoting the same thing all the time. It takes the guesswork out of it. You're not in your mind saying, I wonder how much money this client has, or, oh, these people are never going to afford me. You're just going to quote your fee, and then you're going to be quiet.
Jane,
that's the hardest thing.
One of the biggest things that one of them that you and I worked on through my own, and I'll tell you, your advice on, number one, posting these fees, having them written down, really helped, I thought, with that confidence level. And then you and I actually did a practice run through of saying our fees, and something that you've corrected me on is great advice, and I think our listeners would do well in hearing this. But you talked about not raising your voice at the end of quoting your fees, which was like a question. Can you give someone a sample of what?
Okay, so you've had your conversation with the client and you've gotten them whooped up and they're excited. Okay, let's talk fees. My fee is $5,000 and I travel from San Jose, California. Or in this case, let's say they're calling you from Washington State. You say, my fee is $6,500 and I travel from San Jose.
How would it sound if you were unconfident?
Well,
free
my
speaker
fee,
going to free fee. Speaker fee.
My fee is just let me see what my fee might be. My fee is going to be, well, it could be that fee, or let me just and you're not going to your fee schedule and you're saying my fee is $6,500 and I travel from San Jose. Be quiet. And the way what you said about raising your voice at the end, you're like, and my fee is $6,500, and it's like you're standing there waiting for them to flinch. Like, that is gremlin talk all the way. There's a little green man on your shoulder who's saying, no, they're never going to pay you that much. We do not want the gremlin involved in this conversation. put them outside the door before you start. Be confident, stand tall in your fees, and just be confident in what you are providing is worth that. And if you are not sure, then check in with an expert and find out.
Jane, any advice, you touched on a little, any other advice from going from that free speaker to the fee speaker?
From free to fee, what we want to do at the beginning is we want to get out and speak to anyone who will listen. That's really our goal, is to start building momentum. But what we don't want to happen is that the freebie leads to another freebie, which then leads to another freebie. So your goal, let me give you 2 lines that you can say during your freebie talk that may help change everything for you. Right before you close, you give what I call the Help Me speech, and this is in the Wealthy Speaker book, so you can look it up if you need to. It's 2 lines. It says, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about, and you would fill in your topic. If you're speaking to the dentist, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about customer retention in dentistry. If you know of any organization or association who could benefit from this material, please come and hand me your card, your business card, after the presentation is over. When they come up to you, see, first of all, you're asking for the sale, and secondly, you are giving them permission. They want to help you, and they don't know how. So you're kind of sharing with them how they can help you. And I think it's just something that a lot of speakers will miss, and that's the idea. What you are saying is that I don't want to get more freebies. I would like to go out, and I do this for a living. The other thing you can do to add to that, before I go on from the business card, that's called the Help Me speech. When you get the business cards, you write on the back of each card what it is that you talk about that person with, and then you can go and call them and say, oh yeah, you mentioned to me about the July convention in Anaheim. I just wanted to follow up with you about that. So you're very specific about when you call back. They're not wondering why you're calling. Okay, so another thing that you can do in the body of the speech is you can be planting seeds for the kind of work that you do. So if you're doing keynoting, you say, I was flying out to give a keynote, or I was driving downtown to give a keynote the other day. So-and-so had hired me, keyword there, hired me to help them do this. And if you don't want to use an exact name of a company, you'll say, a large manufacturing company hired me to help them do this. And then you go on from there. Okay, so that's plant seed number 1 for keynotes. You speak for keynotes. If you consult, you might say, several months ago I was working with a consulting client and this was the problem. Okay, you planted the seed for consulting. Let's say you have a book. You might say, let me just read a little excerpt from page 68 for you. Put the book down. Now you have planted the seed that you have a book and it's for sale, or that maybe they're going to be taking it home. So you're always kind of subtly planting seeds throughout your speech, and then you're following it up by the Help Me speech, and all of this is, almost subliminal.
How's that sound? It's so awesome, because sometimes I think as new speakers we don't want to feel that slimy sales feeling, and it's just, these are so easy, these seed plantings that you give in the Help Me speech. Jane, moving on as we go into Module 6, you talk about tech tools. What are some of the best tech tools out there to keep us organized, and what would you suggest for those starting out?
Well, I think for those starting out, so as I mentioned, I'm just getting ready to transition here through Infusionsoft to Infusionsoft, and that's like the Mac Daddy of everything. It includes what we call a CRM, which is a Customer Relationship Manager. That's kind of where you keep all your notes and files on each customer, and when do I need to contact them again, and when's my next sales call. CRM. Then it also contains your shopping cart, which is what you can have on your website to collect, do book sales and things like that. And then it also has this kind of outbound marketing program. So someone comes in with step A. Let's say you come onto my website and you look at the sneak peek of the Epic keynote, you get your pages, you've read it, then then you'd get another email that would say, oh, now that you've read this, here's what the next step is, and it takes you through a sequence of events. That is a mishmash of all the things together in one thing. It's called Infusionsoft. I think Ontraport is another one. There's a lot of different options out there for people that are kind of at the Mac. I would call that the Mac Daddy level. So you're looking at a few $100s a month for that, and if you're not in that position, so let's start over at maybe one that might be a little bit more affordable. So here up on your screen is Salesforce.com, which, if we look at the pricing, is really reasonable. I mean, you could start as low as $5 a month. I think probably somebody would fall logically between the $25 and $65 phase per month. What I think is so important about technology tools, Jen, is that you are doing two things. Number one, you're keeping your kind of prospects, you're keeping good notes, and you have some good like a template with some customized fields that allows you to really know what a customer needs. So the next time you go back and call that customer, you say, oh, and I would even put little notes in, like the last time I talked to this customer, we talked about their daughter Dana and how she was teething. Then I can go back on the next sales call and pick up with, how's your daughter doing? No doubt she's in school by now, blah, 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 right? So I have immediate connection with that client because I already know something from our last call, and I'm reminding them that we're friends. They get so many phone calls that you want to be able to start the conversation with a little bit more of an edge. So you really want to have some sort of documentation of what all you have sent to this person, and I think Salesforce will give you that. I think they also allow you to send, I'm not sure if they are compatible with, say, a MailChimp or Constant Contact. I think they're probably compatible with Constant Contact, and that would allow you to be able to see what all has been sent to this person. So the goal is kind of twofold. Number one, to keep really close eye on your sales leads, your prospects, and where they are in the process. And okay, I need to follow up with them in 6 more weeks. Let me put them down for a phone call again in 6 weeks. You cannot do that on an Excel spreadsheet. Then the second piece would be the constant contact piece, or the autoresponders. You want to be able to reach out to people on a regular basis with good, solid value and information so that you will be top of mind when they're ready to buy. So I would say those are kind of the two pieces that are really, really important starting out. And I think the simplest way to piece it together might be Salesforce and Constant Contact. Jen, you might have some ideas on that.
Yeah, it's something I'm still learning on, and I'm really fascinated to know what your thoughts are on after you switch over to Salesforce, because I know you've done quite a bit
after I switch to Infusionsoft, you mean?
Infusionsoft. Yeah, you've done quite a bit of training on it. Jean, when we're talking about kind of keeping top of mind for event planners or for audiences, what is maybe some of the tools that are the best bang for a buck?
Well, you know, one of the things that you and I use is Hootsuite, and so everybody knows that social media is kind of the thing, and I think that Hootsuite is a really easy way to kind of manage social media. So I talk about in the Wealthy Speaker 2.0, I don't want people to get overwhelmed and feel like they have to sign up for every new thing that comes by. If you get kind of the basics going, and if you know where your audience is hanging out, then I would focus on that. For instance, a lot of my audience is probably hanging out on LinkedIn. So we've been talking about getting more discussions, getting involved in more discussions on LinkedIn, and being a little bit more proactive with LinkedIn rather than just kind of putting out statements. So LinkedIn, Facebook, I also have a huge, huge component on Facebook. So Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, I think, are kind of the holy trinity, and I think Google Plus is becoming, because Google, of course, being the most massive search engine in the world, I think Google Plus is one that we obviously need to be involved with as well. So let me just show you a little example of how Hootsuite works. Oh, I got to log in again. Hang on a second. Let me log in here really quickly. So you'll see that over here up in the corner I have one password, and I keep all my passwords in one place. And so let me see if it, oh no, I don't have mine. So if I were to say recording, whoops, recording a podcast for the Wealthy Speaker University 90-day catapult with the awesome Iron Jen. Oh, I thought you would come up. The Iron Jen, there you are. The Iron Jen. So excited. So what we might do is, so over here we're going to send it on Twitter, we're going to put it on Facebook, we're going to put it on LinkedIn, and we'll put it on that Facebook, and then we're going to just go ahead and send it. I'm just going to go ahead and shoot that out. So I probably should have put more thought into it, but that's it. So that just sent out a message to all of those platforms. That's how easy it is. And as you can see over here on the right-hand side, you'll see the sent tweet right there. And where is my, oops, I knew I was going to do something like this if I went live. I don't see my ones that are coming up, but I think I might have done something earlier that messed with that. So what we have is a whole lot of pending tweets that they're just not showing up. But you can see that there's a whole lot of activity going on out there. Hey, Jen, and that's due to you. Jen is the one who does a lot of my social media for me. So thank you, Jen.
Oh, thank you. I was going to say what the nice thing about this too is on the left-hand side there's your picture of the house, and then there's a little paper airplane. That paper airplane will show you what's going out. So it's just a real nice visual to see what you have out there, what's pending, what's scheduled, and how things are.
Very good. So we have this whole series of things that are going on all the time. Thanks for getting me to click on the paper airplane, because that's a nice visual. Very, very easy to kind of see what's happening. And up here you'll see all the different, up here you'll see all the different social networks that we have to choose from. So that's what I think keeping top of mind is, just makes it a little bit simpler.
Jane, this is fun. Thank you for the tweet, by the way. Hey, we're moving into Module 7 and talking about selling. And I think a fear for all of us starting out is we think, oh my gosh, who's going to hire me? So that gets us into our next question of who will hire me.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put up this link because this is the Center for Association Leadership. This is ASAE, American Society of Association Executives. And in order, if you have trouble finding this link, just email me, jane@speakerlauncher.com, and I'll shoot it over to you. If you want a sample of that fee schedule too, just let me know. Put that into the same email, jane@speakerlauncher.com, and I'll shoot that over to you as well. So you'll say link to associations and sample fee schedule if you'd like them. This is a really amazing search engine, and you can actually search just by keywords. Let me back up a second and say, the reason why I think we want to speak to associations first is because that will then lead us into various companies. So let's say, Jen, you are focusing on emergency workers, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so let's say we look up, let's look up emergency. I really don't know if this is going to work, but you probably shouldn't be doing things like this. Okay, so here are 133 records of people with, so you're getting emergency physicians, emergency response association, you're getting all kinds of ideas here, and you might say, okay, well that might not be the right keyword, maybe we need 911 operators or something like that. But the idea is that you can go into this and you can then find, and you can search closest to you, and you will find associations that are right in your backyard. You can do the same thing on Google, and it'll give you more because not everybody is going to be a member of this association. So these are the people who are the members of ASAE, which a lot of association executives are, but we can't say, of course, that they all are. This is to give you ideas for associations. Let's say you go out and you speak to 300 dentists at a dentist convention. Well, those 300 could then take you into their individual offices. Or maybe you go and you do a sales executive rally, and there are 500 sales executives from 500 different companies, all with sales forces. Now that's 500 leads for you. So that's why we start with associations, and it's a lot easier to find out in the association world when are the meetings happening and who have they had in the past. You can look up a lot about the convention from last year, which will then tell you how to approach them for this year. So that's kind of, in terms of who you'll hire me, I often point people towards associations if that works.
This is an encouragement to see for a lot of us. It's like, oh, there are places.
Good, good.
Jane, how do we go about selling ourselves to these event coordinators to get us booked?
Well, I think it's back to something we said earlier, which is you really want to be top of mind when they are in a buying mode. So you want to pull people into your fan base, and in this case, they're really less fans and more prospects. You want to pull people into your prospect base and keep them there until they buy from you. So if you can get their permission to send out your newsletter to them, I would do that. We're going through a big anti-spam thing here in Canada right now, which means that we really have to get permission. And I hope that kind of gets adopted in the U.S. as well, because I have to tell you, I unsubscribe from no fewer than 10 newsletters a week, Jen. People just start sending them to me, and every time it says, why are you unsubscribing, I say, I never asked to be on this list. And if you do that to meeting planners, I think that's a sure way, or speakers bureaus, I think that's a sure way to kind of annoy them. So I would say that you want to get their permission to be giving you the newsletter, and then they can get all the marketing that goes along with that. The other, of course, we've got the old-fashioned way. Call them up on the phone, see when their next meeting is, log that into salesforce.com so that you can call them back at the appropriate time. You're asking good questions, and you are finding out all of the information so that you can be back in touch with them when they're actually interested. The key is not to annoy them when they are not interested, but what you might do is do what I call the 1-2 punch. Talk to them on the phone, or even leave them a voicemail and just say, I just have one question, I'm just trying to find out when you're planning, or if you're the right contact, or try to think of one question. Then you do the same in the email. Hi, my name is such and such, I speak on this. Are you the right person for this meeting, ? Or when will you be planning for this meeting? And just one question so that they can very easily answer your question and get you out of their inbox, because that's exactly what they want to do. So make it easy to work with you. The best form of marketing and the best way to come into somebody's world is through word of mouth. So if you're really good on the platform, this is circling all the way back to Module 3, I think that's on Keynotes. If you're really, really good on the platform, then I think you're going to find that the spin-off is coming. And if you're getting 2 to 3 from every engagement, then it makes this whole end of things much, much easier.
Thank you, Jane. Moving into Module 8, when we're talking about products such as books, what are the benefits of having those products? And can you share some examples of what actually sells?
Why, Jen, I'm so glad you asked. I want to show you, this is just a little daily cha-ching that happens on my shopping cart, and I just wanted to show you that I love to see total sales and $1 there. Now, this one's a little bit different because there was some coaching money that came in, but when I'm most days I'm going to have some total on this page, and that means that I'm earning revenue from books. Okay, so obviously making some money from books is a real goal for people. Now, if I take you into, this is actually our new bookstore, which we haven't even launched yet, which so you can see we don't have the deal of the week there. But if I take you into this and show you, I just got lots and lots of things to offer people. I'm now offering in 2 currencies, which is a major thing for me that we've never done before. And you'll just see there's so many things that people can purchase on this list. So that is actually a really good revenue generator for me. It's been a really big focus for a very long time to kind of earn money while I speak, because I'm in this for lifestyle, and I'm hoping that I'm modeling for everybody else that you don't want your business to be running you. You want to be running your business. And when we are trading our time for money only, we can get caught up into something that, if something happens with the economy, you're put into jeopardy. But if you have a lot of other revenue streams coming in, then I think that can be really helpful for you. Anyway, okay.
Looking at your shopping cart, I love how you repurpose a lot of the things in there.
And repurposing is something that you talk about all the time, Jen. How do you make this more accessible to someone in a different way? So, for instance, we don't just have a book. We have a Epic Keynote book. We have an Epic Keynote ebook. We have an Epic Keynote playbook. We haven't done the audio yet on it. I've only had 1 or 2 people ask me about it, so I may not do that one. But that's the thing, is that we're doing it in different ways and bundling it up so that people have options of how they can buy. They can come in and buy 1 book if they want. They can buy the ebook for as low as $10. I mean, that's a really easy way. So that leads us into the next reason to have products and books. Let's say someone buys the Wealthy Speaker 2.0 ebook. They spend $10 to kind of come into my world. I pull them into my fan base after they've made that purchase, and now they're going to start kind of being fed out different valuable things. Every week right now we have a whole blog series going on how to deliver an epic keynote. So they're going to get 10 blog posts in a row that are going to be really, really valuable. They're going to eventually think that I know what I'm talking about, I hope, or they're going to unsubscribe, which is fine. And at some point, they're going to go to the next step. The next step for me is the Focus 40 session, where we do 40 minutes together on the phone, and then I'll feed them into what the next step is. So you really want to have something that takes people to the next step. So back to books. Why would I want to write a book? Well, it's an instant credibility builder. And I think that when you are offering up your book, let's say someone buys your book and they read it, they think, oh my goodness, we've got to get this person is brilliant, we've got to get them in to help us with this particular problem. That is a way to actually pull people into your world, is through your books. And it sets your credibility far above the people who have not written the book, and I think that you're going to find that it really, really is a game changer for your business. Would you agree, Jen? You've written a few books.
Yeah, I've written 3. You put it into a great context one time, and I think you laid out actual numbers, and you basically said, hey, if you don't have product, this is what you're missing out on, and that's kind of an eye-opening thing.
It really is. Okay, so let's do that. So let's say you have audiences of 200 people, and you're speaking 5 times a month, okay? So let me just do the math on that. 200 times 5, so that's 1,000. Let's say we do that 10 months out of the year. Okay, so now we're at 10,000 people. Let's say that you just missed out even on $20 from each of those people. That's super, super low. My average sale is more like probably $70. But let's say 20, that's $200,000 at the end of the year that you have just missed out on. So that's why Jen says, that's an important piece, is that, and that also leads us to what comes first, the chicken or the egg, the cart or the horse. I'm going to take a firm stand on this now, Jen. I never used to, but I am going to now. And lots of people write books, and that's what launches them into speaking, which is fine. It really doesn't matter which way you do it. However, if you're going to write a book it's better to have fans waiting there for it. So I have a great client, Doug Sandler, who does Nice Guys Finish First. And Doug has been out blogging and putting all this great stuff out into the atmosphere. I think he's blogging every single week, and in the meantime, he's writing a book. So by the time his book hits the market, he's going to have 2, 3, 4, 5,000 followers and fans who are saying, oh, I can't wait for the Nice Guys book. So that I think probably the horse is the fan base and the cart is the book. Does that make sense? I hope that.
Yeah, Jane, I've done it the wrong way. That's usually how I learn best, is by doing it wrong. So I've done all 3 of my books before I went out to speak because that's what I had for timeline. That's what fit in my life at that time. But now that I'm out speaking and worked through that lane and found that audience, I find that the books don't necessarily match my audience as well as they can. So now on my 4th book, I'm really waiting and going through that, not waiting, but going through the process of listening to their wants and needs. And
Yep.
It's going to be awesome. I mean, it's going to be so focused and right on for their needs because of that time going through that. So it's nice to hear that permission that's okay to wait.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So now you're going to write a book for, say, the emergency responders or whoever it might be that you really feel that your audience is. And I would even go a little bit broader than that so that you don't limit yourself in any way. So I think that's a great approach. And you know what? When you know better, you do better, right, Jen? And I really think a lot of people would say write the book first. So just know this is the world according to Jane. I only just today decided to put a firm line in the sand on that exact topic. I just thought, you know what, this is what I really think. I'm just going to say it. But there are so many people out there that will say to you, oh, I wrote my book first and it worked really well for me. Just know that there's a million different ways to do this business. There is no one approach that's the hard and fast rule. So you shouldn't feel bad about it, okay?
I don't. It served its purpose, but it would just be easier had it gone the other way. But
yeah,
it's okay.
For sure.
Live and learn.
Yep.
Jane, getting into module number 9, talking about demo videos, how long should our demo videos be, and where the heck should we place them on our website?
All right, well, let me scoot back here to Joe Calloway's website. I just wanted to show you his. Now, his is, of course, right here in the middle of the page. His is going to be 8 minutes long, and I think that works for Joe. I think that works for his market, but I don't necessarily think that everybody's have to be that long. What's working today because of YouTube are really short and sweet videos. So you might have a 2-minute clip out on your homepage and then click here for more videos type of thing. I think there's all kinds of different ways to do this in a way that works. Let me see how long Ryan's is. I'm not sure if I can tell you unless I go into it. Hang on, I'm just going to pause it. Oh, hang on. How long is that? Oops, get to the end. Looks like it's about 6. Yeah, I think it's around. I think it's maybe under 7 minutes. So, you know, I've said to Ryan, you know, I think that could be a little bit tighter, a little bit shorter. I don't think that everybody has the, let's say, patience. We're also ADD in today's society. We're used to YouTube videos, and even now, what's the one that's the video? Not Ving. What's it called? Where it's just like 6 seconds or something like that. I can't remember the name of it. Anyway, just know that we're just getting more and more, I think, distraction-oriented. And so I think really 2 minutes is all you need. And I have heard it from several bureaus that a 2-minute clip is enough for them to book a speaker on, which is really quite extraordinary, quite shocking if you think about it. But a 2-minute clip is enough. So I would say let's go back to Joe's page. Think about having something right out here on your home page and, you know, something that somebody can look at. Now, this is a good video, and I want you to wait until you have a really good video before you're putting it right out front and center like this. No video is better than a bad video. That said, with YouTube, it doesn't have to be like what you see Joe's is going to be like, you know, where it's a beautiful 3-camera shoot and it probably was, you know, a $5,000 production. That's unnecessary. that's unnecessary today. What you really just need is to show you speaking, and I think that what I mean by a bad video is a video that doesn't represent you very well. So I was looking at one the other day where the audience was at round tables. The speaker was behind, there was all women in the audience, and there was a female speaker on stage, and I could see the looks on the faces of the people with her backs to her, and they weren't engaged. And that, to me, was a bad video. You did not want to show that, because I think that it just showed that they weren't really, they were all eating their lunch, and, oh, dessert's here, yay, what's next? And so it was complete distraction video, and I would say just be aware of what's going to represent you well.
Jane, real quick, are there recommendations for starting off on a tight budget? Should we be going to a full production crew to get it done, or what would you recommend?
No, I don't think you have to have a full production crew at all. In fact, a tripod and a flip phone can sometimes do the job for you. I had a really cool, someone filmed me using this tripod that I don't know if it's meant for Macs, but he had an iPhone or an iPad on the tripod. You put a little thing in your pocket and it will follow you. That would probably be enough. Like a cell phone could actually film good enough, you know, video nowadays to capture you. And because you only need 2 minutes, you say, okay, can you go ahead and get me during the opening, and I'm going to stand still for these 2 parts, or whatever. You know, you might still be moving around, but if they have it on a tripod, then you'll be okay. So I forget what that tripod was called that moved, but it was the coolest, Jen. You would have loved it.
I have it.
You have it? What's it called?
Yeah. It's green and black. That's what I remember. Sorry, but I'll try to get it before we wrap up here. But it is pretty neat. Module 10, Jane. When we're looking at getting booked, should we go with a hiring company or a person to book us?
I really recommend that people go out and book themselves first for, I would say, a couple of years. No one should be able to sell you better than you. But when you get to the point where you feel like you're losing engagements because you can't handle it all, then that's the time to think about hiring someone. I think the hiring of a quote-unquote agent is a very, very difficult thing to do. That's why I laid it all out in the Wealthy Speaker 2.0. There's a lot of questions, a lot of check marks you can use to figure out what is it exactly that you want your person to do. And you really have to be careful not to pile on too much stuff, or else they will get very much distracted with the administrivia of your work rather than the selling of you. So really be careful. Do I want someone for admin, or do I want someone for selling? There are a few people out there who run what we call agencies, and those are kind of speaker management companies. They're small kind of boutiques. They might have anywhere from 3 to, say, 20 speakers. So you can Google speaker management companies, and you'll see what some of those look like. Most of them will not be interested in you until you're actually, you know, turning away business, until you've got lots of business on the books. So it's such a tricky thing, but if you can figure out how to sell yourself, the guy we have on our screen right now, Joe Calloway, he's out there speaking. I bet you he'll do 40 or 50 engagements this next year. I'm sure he would rather have 40, but he's extra busy this year at $20,000, and he does it all himself. So just know it can be done even at the higher levels. What I often will recommend people do is farm out the other things. Look at what your core competencies are and choose 3 core competencies that you're going to do, and then kind of farm out the rest. So I'll give you mine, Jen, just as an example. My number 1 core competency is coaching. And then number 2 is writing, and then number 3 is selling. So coaching, writing, and selling. And so outside of those 3 things, I pretty much farm out everything. All of my web work, all of, I'll write the blog, and then it goes into the machine, and the machine handles it from there. that's kind of the ideal situation. And when we get you to the end of the 90-day Catapult, you'll see there's a few forms there that will kind of help you figure out who needs to be on your team. But I think that that's the goal, is that you become one of the salespeople for you, because if you can learn how to do it really well and keep that in-house for yourself, you'll be keeping a lot of the revenue as well, because you don't really necessarily want to hand out 25 or 30% of your fees.
Definitely. Oh, Jane, just going back to our little tech tools, it's Swivel. It's called SWIVL, is the iPhone thing.
Well done, Jen. I'm so impressed that you did that before we finished. That's awesome. Okay, great.
I'm sure you have some great final advice for us, Jane, as we wrap up, if you could share that.
Well, I really think that it comes down to trying to figure out how to spend your time, energy, and money. I think that that's so important. And if you can focus, let's say, in the first 3 years on these things. Number one, get great on the platform. A good speech is your number one form of marketing. So really, really work on your skills and make sure that you are crafting a great presentation. Number two, get clear on your positioning and your lane. That will help with number one, because you'll be more clear on what the outcomes of your work are. Number three, get solid marketing. Make sure that your clear message is available for people on the website. And number four, just deliver consistent action. Do the right things consistently. Now let me just take you into the 90-day Catapult here. I want to show people exactly what the modules look like, and we'll just leave that up on the screen for a little bit. That's what we've been running through today. Number one, pick a lane. Number two, create a great promise. But when we went in, you and I, Jen, went in and re-recorded every one of these modules in the last 6 months. So they are all current, juicy information. So we gave you a teeny tiny little snippet of what each one was today, but just imagine 45 minutes on that topic kind of blown out. So that's one of the ones I want you to think about. When you go to wealthyspeakeru.com, I'll just take you back to the home page. You will be clicking either here on the 90-day Catapult or down below here on the Learn More button, and that will give you all the details that you need to know about that. So with that being said, I would like to say thank you very much, Jen, for being on the line with me here today. Thank you to our listeners for coming out for one of our Wealthy Speaker University podcasts. And we'll see you soon, Wealthy Speakers. Bye for now.